All right, thank you for joining us, Councilman Emery. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
All right, thank you all for your patience. I'll go ahead and call this meeting of the County Council to order, January 10th, 2023. Councilman Vaughn has volunteered to pray for us tonight.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time together. We thank you for the county business we're doing. I ask you, Lord, that you be with our first responders and our public safety officers on the street. I plead the blood on the Lord for safety. I just ask you, Lord, that you would do our best work and be good servants of the taxpayers' money tonight. We thank you for a good meeting that we're going to have. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. If you'll join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Todd, would you do the roll call, please?
Councilwoman Norrick.
Present.
Councilwoman Likens.
Here.
Councilwoman Keller.
Here.
Councilman Steele.
Here.
Councilman Emery.
Here.
Councilman Vaughn.
Present.
President Gale.
Here. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the November 15, 2022 meeting. Is there a motion?
Make a motion approved.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Councilman Vaughn, a second by Councilman Steele. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 That passes. I think there might be a slight delay. Next would be the approval of the agenda for tonight's meeting. Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Motion to approve by Councilman Steele. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Vaughn. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, that passes. Under Council President comments, first I'd like to welcome our two new members of the council, Councilwoman Norrick, Councilwoman Keller. Glad to have you aboard. I think we all look forward to working together, and we should have a good year. They replaced a couple of members of our council. It's typical that we will ask usually someone from the auditor's office to take this portion of the meeting and chair it for us. Once a new president is elected, then that person will take over and chair the meeting to elect a vice president and then the rest of the agenda. So this time, Rick?
Okay, we will now open nominations for council president. We will take nominations one at a time, so if there's a nomination, we'll vote on that nomination. If there's a second nomination, we'll vote on that one separately. Do we want to do that by roll call? Or is that
It might
necessary?
just be more clear for this
Okay.
vote.
Todd,
yeah.
will you be ready to do that? Okay, so we are now opening nominations for council president. Do we have any nominations for council president?
I make a motion to nominate Rob Steele for president.
So you have a nomination for Rob Steele. Todd, would you take that vote?
Councilwoman Norrick.
Yes.
Councilwoman Likens.
Yes.
Councilwoman Keller.
Yes.
Councilman Steele.
Yes.
Councilman Emery.
Yes.
Councilman Vaughn.
Yes.
President Gale.
Absolutely, yes.
Are you gonna just?
All right, yeah. I'll just give you all the stuff that you need.
Thank you. And thank you for your trust and that it didn't take 15 votes to get there. A lot quicker. We will now open the floor for nominations for Vice President.
Council President Steele, I would like to nominate Diana, Congresswoman, not Oh, my goodness.
Is there
Sorry,
something you want to tell us?
I'm thinking of the disaster they're going through with the speaker right now in Congress, but Councilwoman Diana Likens to be our Vice President.
Any other nominations? If not, we'll consider it closed and take a vote, please. Todd?
Councilwoman Nort,
Yes.
Councilwoman Likens,
Yes.
Councilwoman Keller,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman Emery,
Yes.
Councilman Vaughn,
Yes.
President Steele.
Yes. Okay,
Thank you.
we do have a Vice President. Thank you.
Thank you
for
very much.
willingness to
Thank you.
serve.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is committee assignments by the board. I did not print the full out, but I will send that to the council. There are two openings with Jerry leaving, actually three with Fred. One being the Planning Commission, Jerry's spot there. Then we have Personnel Committee with Fred's spot leaving. The third spot is Anderson Economic Development Council that Councilmember Gale currently serves on. He's willing to give that up, and I am going to appoint Councilmember Vaughn to that position for Economic Development Council. Something I talked briefly with some of the members about the Personnel Committee. That currently is three members of the council. We meet separate and make recommendations, and I want you to think about maybe reorganizing that, or keeping it three members, but that for being more for long-term projects or big projects, rather than just it would seem to be a rubber stamp committee, because let's get it before the full council. And reserve that, say, if we're working on a benefits package or rewriting job descriptions or something like that, use the Personnel Committee, and we'll leave Fred's position open until a time that we have something to take to the committee. That's also attended by Beatrice Ramey, and I'm not sure if one of the commissioners are not on that. It meets so infrequently. That way, with people, when they have job openings or they want a promotion or whatever, that usually would take the Personnel Committee, I'd like to see them come before the full council, just like a first and second reading where they address the council, give us a month to think about it, do any background checking we need. If the council is favorable to that, we can start that at the time. I'll solicit your feedback maybe next month or between now and then. If you have a better idea or you want to leave it the way it is, let me know. That way it gets more visibility for the person or the office holder. Usually it involves much more communication if we're doing it in one meeting and transferring all the information to a second meeting.
Council Steele, you.
Yes, sir.
You and Councilman Emery are going to stay on there then? You
Just
need
for
to fill
now,
one
we're not
spot.
going to, until
Right.
that committee needs to meet, we'll leave it ad hoc.
When is that meeting? Is that usually during the day?
It's whenever we assign it, and we try to work with the office holder or director for that, or department head. The third is Jerry Alexander's Planning Commission, and I'm going to nominate and attend myself. I've been attending a lot of those remotely anyway, and up on at least some of the issues before them at this time. Part of that requires it's a 9 o'clock, or is it 10 o'clock? 10 o'clock a.m. on the Tuesday before, or the same day as our council meeting. So that's usually, I'm here in town for that, and I'll be able to attend again. Those are the committee assignments that I wanted to make any changes to. Everything else will remain the same. Well, I guess that was the other one, the county economic development with Rob Sparks.
Oh, yeah.
Jerry, that was the other one Jerry served on. That in my involvement in the last year has been a few phone calls. I don't attend any meetings. Rob usually lets me know when something's coming, or if there's an abatement, we're the first they contact, and we disseminate the information. So it's really more of a conduit than it is doing anything. Yes, sir.
For the planning commission, it's a council appointment, so
You'll need a vote? Okay.
We got it.
Okay. Thank you, Ted. I stand corrected that we will need a vote on that if someone would,
And do you need to open up nominations for that too? Or maybe I didn't know
He
procedurally.
nominated himself. So
Well,
he's going.
well, I didn't know if there's other,
if anyone else,
I didn't know if there's a procedure for it.
It's nominations from the council.
any other nominations? Someone wanting to serve in that role?
I would like to be on the planning commission.
Okay, well
I
then,
have the time to dedicate to it.
okay, there's two people, then we'll have to take a vote.
Just take the vote in order of the nominations, and then, vote to get a majority.
Okay,
I guess I could go ahead and run this.
sure, please.
So, okay, so first we have Rob Steele nominated for the planning commission. We'll do roll call vote, Todd.
Councilwoman Norick,
No.
Councilwoman Likens,
Yes.
Councilwoman Keller,
No.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman Emery,
I believe he got disconnected.
Councilman Vaughn,
What are who are we voting on?
President Steele.
For planning commission.
And then you did it? You can't ask no questions. You can't ask no questions, can we? We're in the middle of the vote. Man, this sucks. I hate being a councilman sometimes. Between Bethany and, are we allowed to ask questions, Councilman? I mean, just kind of a simple, because we never got to even discuss it, because they had two nominations. I guess
Usually
that's-
nominations don't,
we don't discuss,
we
we're
don't,
just
it's
not
not
open
up
for
for
floor.
debate or question.
Okay, no.
President Steele,
So,
Yes,
so three
3-3.
Three votes. Okay, so now we move on to Ms. Pellet's nomination.
Councilwoman Norick,
Yes.
Councilwoman Likens,
No.
Councilwoman Keller,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
No.
Councilman Emery, Councilman Vaughn,
Yes.
President Steele,
No. We'll go ahead and continue this.
So, yeah.
Up
so
for
until
next-
Next meeting. Wait
Yep.
till we pick another.
Okay. All right. Committee assignments and/or voting for. Next, we'll have the auditor's report. If, come up, please.
Good evening, council. I think Todd's going to put us a slideshow up, if we can get it up. It's one we shared before, but we've basically just tweaked it to represent the numbers as they are today or at the end of the year. While he's doing that, I'll go over I'll go over some numbers, and then we'll look at that slideshow. General fund cash balance at the end of 2022 was $12,448,414.37. As you've heard me before, $9.5 million is a good number to be at. The budget's just as it creeps up a little bit, that number needs to be just a little bit more. We're thinking 10 million is a good number to have there, 9.5 to 10 million, in order for us to carry expenses from tax draw to tax draw.
Rick, can you say it one more time? Can you say it one more time? 12 million what?
$12,448,414.37.
Okay, thank you.
The rainy day fund right now at the end of, all these numbers are end of the year. End of the year sets at $5,825,848.07. Tonight, through Resolution 2023-1A, I have a request before the council that will come up shortly, but to transfer $2,450,000 to the rainy day fund, which would make that total $8,275,484.07. in a 2-year period, we've been able to hit our 20% threshold. General accepted numbers for a rainy day fund would be 15 to 20%. We would be hitting our 20%. On top of that, you will have interest that will feed into that. If we look at interest as it is at the rates today, that $8,275,000 will generate $268,953.23 if we're at today's rate, if today's rate continues through the year. So that $268,000 can go to fund a variety of things through the rainy day fund, which has been the only thing that we have put there is this capital case with the police officer who was life was taken back last year. The prosecutor's office has decided to go forward with capital murder case. So the interest from that rainy day fund can partially, just the interest alone can partially fund that to the tune of a quarter to half of it anyway, depending on how that ends up. So at the year end, your rainy day fund would be at $8,544,437.30 if none of that money's used. Now, a little bit of that money has been used so far, but these are balances as of 12/31, and there'll be some expenses this year, so that year-end number will be a little less than that. Where you at on that, Todd, if you want to. Okay, general fund interest for this year, or 2022, was $948,000 in the general fund. Same thing as if rates continue to increase or hold their own, you'll have more. There's a look at your interest over the last, 8 years maybe? 8-10 years. So interest income has skyrocketed, interest rates are up. That's a good thing for the taxpayers. That's less that the taxpayer has to pay to get the job done, or more work done, and they don't have to participate anymore. Everyone knows we're taxed plenty as it is. What do you got there next, Todd? Okay, so you got debt reduction in 2018. We had debt of $14 million. You can see as it dropped over time, but at the end of 2022, we're at $6.7 million in county debt. Everyone knows that we're on the road to building a new jail, so that debt, of course, will turn around. But we've been working hard, the council and our office working together to get that debt paid down. We paid off some of them early, saved interest on the way there. So there's a picture of your debt, county debt, and where it's heading right now. I spoke about that a while ago. Cash balance $9.5 to $10 million. If we transfer that $2,450,000, it's going to leave you right at the $10 million mark, which will give you about $500,000 in flexibility during the year.
Rick, do you have a paper copy of that?
I can get it for you. Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to. I think we covered most of that, Todd. I kind of went out of order. Major fund spending. There's your major fund spending over the last several years. So you'll see in 2022 would be your far right. So you're tracking right along even with previous years. You had a dip in, 18 or 19 there, Todd, where we dipped down. That's when we tightened the belt. And we were paying during that time, keep in mind that we were paying to fund a bridge that could have been bonded, and we didn't, and thankful we didn't, because our debt is now only $6.7 million. Our portion of that bridge that we built was $3.75 million, so we budgeted $1.25 million a year for 3 years to pay for that bridge without taking on any debt. Also, the building remediation, there was several $1 million in work that was done at the county courthouse for that asbestos remediation. We did take on debt for that, and it's part of that $6.7 million, but there was several $1 million more that we actually paid out of pocket. So you can see where we tightened up through those years, and at the same time have reduced our debt over the last couple of years. Something that's not on that slideshow, is that the end of it, Todd? Something that's not on that slideshow is the American Rescue Plan. American Rescue Plan balance right now is $22,064,960. That's the balance in the fund. The rescue plan right now, we have spent $3,102,298.80. That's been on approved projects, premium pay, and COVID insurance related costs that were reimbursed. You have before you tonight a request to appropriate in the American Rescue Plan $2.2 million, I think, a little bit over $2.2 million. All that is a appropriation of projects that's already been approved and appropriated last year, and at the end of the year, they lose their appropriation. Those projects are already tracking along, and that money needs reappropriated to cover what's already been approved at previous commissioner and council meetings for projects that they've undertaken. The $3.1 million includes, like I said, the premium pay and part of the projects and the COVID reimbursement. I think that COVID reimbursement was $675,000, and that's actual insurance costs that the county incurred for employees that are in the plan, insurance plan that was COVID related. So I think that's about all I have. You do have I guess I'm next on the agenda, so do you want me to go on with that, Mr. President?
Yes, sure.
So Resolution 2023-1A is the $2,450,000. I'm asking that the council would move that to the rainy day fund to come up with that $8.2 million balance and the ability to obtain $268,000 in interest before the end of the year. So that's that is before you now, and if you would like.
Now, is this the, go ahead. Do we need a,
Resolution 2023-1A is a resolution moving funds from the rainy day, or into the rainy day fund.
is that the
from
new
the
HARPA
excess.
money that we did at the beginning that you did, because we didn't spend it, we got to
No,
reappropriate the first?
this $2,450,000 is through, well, just an example of why we had so much left. Spending was down a little bit, so we saved on what we spent. We balanced revenues to the budget, and it's unspent monies, so the budget wasn't fully spent. You have the interest, almost $1 million in interest that participated in that. We have from time to time tax sale leftover revenues from previous tax sales where money was not claimed. Things like that go into the rainy day fund. So this is general fund money up and above the $10 million we need to operate for the 6-month period, and
A little above the 19.5 million that you kind of want to keep in there, and we kind of came in above, right? And
I'm sorry?
Kind of you always want to keep it, as the auditor, you always want to keep it at 9.5 million, and then we come up above that, so we want to put that in the rainy day fund, because we kind of
Right.
came in a little above in what we thought.
Right. We ended up at almost $12.5 million. So $2,450,000
Okay.
we're asking to go to the rainy day fund.
Make
It's a
a
safe
motion
place
to
to keep it, and it's drawing interest and funding some other projects that way.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for Resolution 2023-1A, approval with, in title only, to move $2,450,000 of excess funds in the county general fund to the county rainy day fund. And we will need a roll call vote. I need a vote tally.
Okay. Can I just comment real quick?
Yes.
The rainy day fund is getting to a very healthy spot, but I do want to make sure we're all cautious. There is still this dollar amount we're waiting on for a lawsuit involving the jail. It's not a budgeted amount, so that would likely come out of the rainy day fund when we finally know what we have to spend on that. And so, it's good that we're finally at a position where when something like that happens, we don't have a crisis. But I do just urge the council to continue to protect this so that it can be available for future emergencies. So,
And it also earns interest in there on a bigger amount of money too, so it kind of makes, yeah.
Thank you. Any more comments, questions? Todd, please.
Councilwoman Norick,
Yes.
Councilwoman Likens,
Yes.
Councilwoman Keller,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman Vaughn,
Yes.
President Steele.
Yes. That passes unanimously. And next order of business is Resolution 2023-1B, a resolution encumbering funds. The following departments of prosecutor, drainage board, planning, human resources, courthouse, 4D, emergency management youth center, council, and general fund have all requested encumbrances. Those have been presented to you with receipts or invoices and the funds available from last year to encumber into this year, totaling $106,904.38. I'll need a motion to approve,
Make a motion
please.
to approve.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes. We'll have to sign each of these, please. Joint Resolution 2023-1C, resolution approving the salary contract of the sheriff. In title only, you should have a copy of that for the coming year.
Make a motion to approve. I read that.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions? If not, put that to a vote. All in favor, say
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. And the salary contract for the motion just passed, we also has to sign. This was a joint resolution or contract with the commissioners that had to be done and was done on, I don't remember what date this was, but the auditor signed or have to sign this. It backs up to the first of for the year.
Just to make, Councilman Steele,
Yes,
if I
sir.
may. Just let everybody know and the public know, this is by Indiana Code statute. This isn't something we're doing. This is by Indiana Code that the sheriff receives this. So this is something that we're just not giving him a bump in pay, and this is by statute. So I make him, on that contrary, I make a motion to approve, unless there's any more comment.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other questions? Debate? Yes, sir.
We don't need to vote. We vote on the resolution to approve the contract.
Okay.
So we don't need to vote twice.
So do we just sign this as, okay?
Okay.
We'll do that. Now on to transfers, if there's no other new business. Transfers,
President Steele, I would make a motion that we approve the transfers en masse.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say
Aye.
aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes. And now we have public comment on new money request. For those in the audience, we have miscellaneous funds or new money from dedicated. These are usually, these are funds that
These
Are-
grant funds.
yeah, these are grant funds that they don't know, we can't budget until the grant is actually received. That happens with some grants from the state and independent grants that, particularly the health department, there's a number, 7 or 8 different funds that they receive funding for that we must allocate for appropriation. Soil and Water District, the Rainy Day Fund, as Councilman Vaughn mentioned earlier, setting aside money for the prosecutor, courts, and public defenders for an anticipated trial. And then the ARPA fund for the commissioners is a duplicate of what we passed last year that went unappropriated, that we'll have, or unspent, that we'll have to reappropriate this year for them. If there's any public comment, would you please approach,
Councilman Steele.
state your name and,
Real
yes,
quick,
sir.
I just, Ted, do we have to, just a real quick question, do we have to, in grant money, say,
Generally, no.
okay, that's what I was asking, do we have to open that public comment?
Fund money, you
Do, but grant funding we don't, okay. Thank you.
And because we didn't know what the grant was early, we don't fund it or don't budget it, so it's not approved in prior year.
Right, but just,
Yeah, I just didn't know if grant money, do we have to open up for public comment? I know general fund and, yeah, okay. Thank you.
So Catherine Callahan, LaPel, Indiana. I don't have a problem with the funds and stuff. What I've got a comment about is that you continue to ask the public to speak on new monies before any discussion takes place. I don't know any intelligent person that can have a conversation about subjects that are not discussed first. The taxpayers, the voters have voted you in. They should have enough time to go through and figure out what exactly they're talking about new money. So the new money request comments from the public should be moved somewhere else in the agenda to allow the public to have an intelligent conversation with you.
I would just like to speak to that if I could. I would like to see, it was a frustration for me when I was sitting here for the last 2 years on new money. And I have to concur that it's hard for us. I mean, we've got a packet, so we can kind of see what those monies are. The public doesn't have that same packet. And it would be nice for them to come up and just say a little bit about why they need that money, or if it's a grant and whatever, and then allow the public to have that opportunity to be able to speak to those things. A lot of times after they've spoken, the public probably won't even have questions. But I think it allows transparency with the council, with the community, and the people, the voters out there, to be able to see exactly what each one of these are. Just for the department heads to come forward and just say, hey, for instance, Soil and Water is asking for new money, just to come forward and say, this is why I'm asking for it. And then if anybody has questions, the public should have that opportunity after that time to be able to speak. So that's just what I think that how we should change that.
Councilman Steele. Yes. I agree with Councilman Woman Norick, that people don't have the plan. And I watch, we have a councilwoman here from Anderson City, and I do watch that. And I watch her and they give an opportunity to speak that. And some other councils do too. Each time they appropriate money, correct me if I'm wrong, Councilwoman Crooms, is that, they give a chance for the public to speak on that at that moment after they make a motion and then the council votes on it. So that'd be a nice change, I think, that if we can.
Anybody else wishing to speak? We'll move to appropriate new monies. Want to take us by department or in mass?
Generally, we've done by department for any
Yeah.
soil and water.
Soil and Water Department.
Good evening. I'm Brandy Frazier with Madison County. Well, we know Madison County Soil and Water. Sorry. We've always, since I started in 2016, we'd always had 2 employees: the department head, executive director, and a district coordinator. In 2020, I lost my district coordinator. She went to work for the city of Muncie. As we all know, what happened in 2020. There was no way I could justify, as Soil and Water and the board, we couldn't justify having someone. We were half at home, half in the federal building. We didn't know what was going on. So we are finally feel like we're to the point where we need another employee. And I didn't send in the appropriation when I sent in my budget. So that's why I'm asking for the money.
And this is a grant, right?
Yeah, it's our money that we put in that fund. I just need it opened up so I can put the money in it.
And that's your only employee, right? It's just you and then your part.
Yeah. Yep. Just me and another person.
Make a motion to approve.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other further discussion, debate? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Health Department.
Good evening, Steph Mellinger, Health Department. I have a lot of grants. And as President Steele mentioned, they fall on different, of all these grants, 3 of them are calendar year. The rest of them are odd times of the year. They can go April to March, October to September, July to June. So it's very difficult to present them at budget time, which is why I appropriate them, or prefer to appropriate them in January. So what I'm going to do is just go through all of them, and if you have questions, I'm happy to answer questions about them. So starting with Health Maintenance Fund. Health Maintenance Fund and the Local Health Department Trust Fund are essentially the tobacco settlement funds that we've been getting for years and years. That money is dwindling a little bit, but it does carry over. So whenever we want to use this money, we have to get state approval for these projects. So we can't, so it's easier to appropriate it on the local end and then ask the state if we can spend it on particular projects rather than ask them if we can spend it on it and then wait for that approval, may not get approved, may get approved, then we bring it here. So it's just easier to do this end first. The DIS grant fund, that funds a couple of DIS 1 and 2. That grant also kind of runs a little bit off in terms of months. That one is October to September. HIV Prevention Fund, that one funds our community outreach worker for HIV testing. CRI and bioterrorism, I'm going to skip the vaccination grant for just a moment. CRI fund and bioterror fund are our preparedness funds, our public health preparedness funds. We've been receiving those funds for about 17 years, and that helps us purchase preparedness items. So when the pandemic was upon us, we actually had a lot of stockpile things that other counties didn't have that we were available to share sooner than when all the supplies came rushing in. So we use that money for that. We also use it for a lot of our office operational expenses. It helps us offset our health fund. Okay, back to mass vaccination fund. This one was for, or is for COVID vaccinations. The DIS-2 supplemental, so the state health department gave us supplemental STD money. So DIS is disease intervention specialists, and it goes towards STD work. A lot of STDs, and each region of the state or each district of the state got a little bit of an increase in their funding, so that's what this is. It actually employs 2 people, which is really helpful. They're outreach workers, and they're able to help fill in pretty much anywhere is needed, but typically with outreach work. COVID testing grant fund, that's exactly what it is. It's COVID testing money. COVID Safety Compliance Fund, this is a big one. This is the one that employs our school liaison. This is also the grant that the State Health Department has given us for getting kids back on track with physicals and all the health screens that kids needed that are still having trouble getting back into their doctors. So that helps take care of that. It's really we really focus that money on vaccination and child wellness events. So we strategically plan them around the county and offer sports physicals and vaccines and things to draw families in. The Health Non-Reverting Fund, that money is the reimbursement money we have been given from Medicaid for all the COVID testing. That money allows us to do projects that might not fit in the scope of our grant money, any other grants. So, what questions?
Ms. Melder, just for the public to be clear, when you fill out these grants, it's a lot of work, and you and I had a discussion about it, and you have to, when you apply for these grants, it has to be in the structure, and they got to approve you for this, so you got to put down the structure and spend it on the structure of that grant.
Yes.
And they got boundaries of that grant.
There's a scope and
So I just want
parameters,
the
yes.
public to know, this ain't something that she just says, hi, I'm Stephanie, I want money. I mean, she has to go and fill out the application. You know, it's been
Yes.
that easy, but there's a structure of these grants, and she works really hard. And I think she should be, again, I complimented her last year, and I'm going to continue to do it.
Thank you.
For grants, because this is something that, it's not easy. It's time consuming, I'm kind of learning them. Probably never be as knowledgeable as Ms. Melander, so I just want to let the public know this ain't something that is an easy task, and she's got to be instructed in that structure of those grants and always spend that money on that structure of grants,
Yes.
which is approved by the state, so.
You didn't touch on the local health department trust fund. What is that one?
The Health Maintenance and Local Health Department Trust, they're the tobacco settlement
Oh, they're
money.
both
So
there?
they're essentially the same funds. They're all budgeted, when we submit those budgets to the state and ask for approval for projects, they're all in the same spreadsheet. I'm not quite sure why they're separated, but they historically have been.
So out of curiosity, when it says other services and charges, what is something that you might utilize those funds for, those top two there?
We used we really relied heavily on those funds for, during COVID, for additional PPE. We paid for COVID testing before we had a COVID testing grant. We purchased vaccination refrigerators that were CDC approved because ours were refrigerators that we bought at Lowe's years and years and years before, and they were starting to become unreliable. Those refrigerators are very expensive. They're probably $8,000 for a refrigerator the size of this podium. So it was really helpful to, in an emergency, have access to those funds pretty quickly. That's what we would use those for.
So out of all those funds there, do you anticipate using all that this year, or?
We typically do not.
Okay.
So, but we like to appropriate it just in case, because if we come up with something, say in March, and we pitch it to the state and the state approves it, it saves us a trip of having to redo this again.
And then at the end of the year, if you don't utilize it, it goes back in the fund
Right.
and you reappropriate it?
Yes.
Okay.
President Steele, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the appropriation of the Health Department
Second.
funds.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other further discussion, debate? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Rainy Day Fund.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
I guess I'll do these.
Okay, that's
This
fine.
is we actually put this in, if you remember last year, we appropriated in the prosecutor's budget, $100,000 for the capital case, in the court budget, $50,000, and in the public defender's matching the prosecutor's budget of $100,000. Don't expect all that will get spent this year, but it needs to be available for them to do any work they need to do related to the capital case. We're using that out of, or we're running that out of the rainy day fund simply because there's not really a revenue source to set up a fund that just says capital case fund. So that's the reason we're doing it out of that, and don't want it mixed with regular general fund stuff, so we can keep and track it totally separately.
Make a motion approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. ARPA Fund, can you?
Yeah, I spoke
This is
on
the
that.
same.
Yeah, I spoke about it just a little bit earlier. It looks like there's about $7,600 left in the original appropriation of $675,000 of the plan that was approved by the committee, commissioners, and the council last year to reimburse the county for COVID-related expenses on the health care plan for county employees that were stricken by COVID. So that's the balance of that 675. We're asking to reappropriate that. There's, if we don't already have it, we'll have more bills than that, but in the plan, we approved 675, so it goes over that, then that'll be a future conversation. And then the other services and charges, that's all the projects that are already in play, and that's the appropriation that was that is lost at year end, asking that be reappropriated. Those projects are already being worked on. It's in that initial $3 million in projects.
The first round.
The first round, yes.
Make a motion approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other further questions, discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We have salary ordinances for soil and water, health, sheriff, and info.
Can we do them all at once, or do we have to do them?
We'll do them separately. I just wanted to
Okay.
give a little background on each. Yes.
Just make sure.
And these are all first readings. One, the Soil and Water Department that was asked for from Ms. Frazier. Then Health Department that or we can take them one by one. Then we'll start with Soil Department.
Make a motion.
Let me,
Sorry.
can I?
Sorry.
If, the way these work, for those fairly new, if we pass on a first reading unanimous, we can pass it. Otherwise, we'll have to bring back for a second reading at our next council meeting. With Anthony's And we need to note when Anthony left the meeting, if we can, Todd. If you remember when that, is it all present, or is it, okay, all present. Thank you for the clarification.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for salary ordinance 2023-1C
Does this need to be?
for soil and watershed fund 4910 for $32,000 district coordinator. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes on first reading, and so we'll have that to sign, please. The second one, 2023-1D, the Health Department, a little more extensive. This is outlined from what was just passed from Ms. Mellinger, all the individual salaries that were detailed in the appropriations.
President Steele, I'd like to make a motion that we approve salary ordinance 2023-1D.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other further questions, discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. The sheriff out of general fund salary ordinance adjustments, and some of these, the officers needed to be tweaked because of promotions and longevity, and then the salary contract that needs to be amended to reflect the pay previously passed under contract.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for salary ordinance 2023-1E for general fund, sheriff's fund. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That also passes unanimously. Salary ordinance 2023-1F. This is an IT adjustment to the salary ordinance from within their own fund.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further questions?
I have a question. I just need more information because I didn't receive this with the regular packet. This was day of, so I didn't know anything about this until this morning, which is why I voted against the transfer in mass, because it was transferring the money for this. And so I just like more information for who we're giving a pay raise for and why.
Miss Cannon still, she retreated to her bunker over across the hall.
And this out of a grant, though, too. This is out of a, Councilwoman Keller. Oh,
Yes, it's an adjustment.
yeah, this is,
Or not adjustment.
but I mean, this is out of a grant, just to let you know, too.
It is a grant?
Yeah, it's not out of general fund money, it's out of a grant that she, I believe, is that right?
It's general fund.
No.
It's a
It's
transfer.
general fund.
Oh, is it okay,
It
sorry.
was taken out at the,
She's transferring from phone data admin $5 or $5,000 and adding that to desktop analyst 1. So it's just an adjustment within her budget.
So do we have to change the salary ordinance for the other person to decrease their pay?
Yes, one of those is an adjustment $5,000 upward, and one is an adjustment $5,000 down.
Okay.
So see Bethany in here,
And
they're both
offset.
on here. The new salaries of them. Can you see that?
I can't. I missed that. But again, I didn't get it till this morning, so. Okay.
I forget now whether we voted on it or not.
No,
did.
we have a
We-
first and
okay.
second.
Make a
That's right,
motion.
there was a question by Councilmember Keller. Any other further discussion, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That also passes unanimously. Thank you. Any other business to come before the council?
If I may, Councilman Steele, I've discussed with Councilman Gale and with the new sheriff that I have been in contact with Chief Brizadine with the police chief of Elwood. And what I'd like to do, and hopefully with the council support, and again, I didn't reach out to you, Councilwoman Norick, and just not liking the new. Per car, to get the bulletproof windshield would be $2,300. I understand that I'm getting more figures to come, but just to let you know, that would be for all the on-duty patrol cars on the deputy sheriff's department that are patrolling out there. So it's something that I think we need to communicate and get that for our officers. I think that'd be a good thing, and God forbid something like happen again. But I know I'm getting prices and getting account how many cars, so just communicate to the council. That's something that I think we need to do for the deputy, at least we can do. So I hope I can get the support of the rest of the council on that.
So are you thinking about changing them all out, or just the new ones as they come through?
I like to get them, every officer that is out patrolling. From my understanding through Sheriff, through Mike, that they switch out 2 cars every year. They like to put new cars, like to put that in the cost of the cars when they deck it out, put the lights on and decals. Just figure that in the cost for the bulletproof class. And any other officers' cars that are out that we're not getting to the 2, that go ahead and do those for $2,300. And if it's typical, if I may, Councilman Steele talked to Chief President about that. They did a test run on that. They shot 25 rounds. Matter of fact, I'm not even going to say anything about that. I'm sorry. I mean, it's really good. He's very impressed with the product, and it's held up for multiple rounds of ammunition. So.
Can we,
I think,
sorry.
go ahead, please.
Okay. We talked earlier about public comment, changing that for after each new money request. So can we go ahead and decide for future agendas if we want to do that or not?
Right now, we keep it as is. I mean, you can approve the agenda, change it if you want, as it's presented. We as representatives, we put any new general fund money request, or are they not, Todd, advertised? And the public has time to get with us if they have a concern or more questions. And that's what we're supposed to be as representatives. And as people come to us and have questions, we should relay that to other members or use it in our discussion. It still gives them public input. They still have time to ask. It's worked fairly well since we've instituted the single, rather than going every item by item seeking public input.
Okay.
Well, that's fine. That's what good discussion is about.
So then I should, at the next meeting, I should bring that up during the approval of the agenda.
If you want to change the agenda, it takes majority to approve it. Any other questions?
Move to
Anyone-
make a motion.
It's been moved to adjourn.
Second. You want to say something? I'm sorry, I didn't.
Go
All
ahead.
in
Sorry,
favor?
I'll withdraw it if you'd like to say something, Councilman Likens.
No, just procedurally, when there's a motion to approve the agenda,
You-
you would make a motion to amend.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, make a motion to approve to adjourn.
It's been moved to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
In the meeting.
Less than an hour.
There you go.
Yes, sir.
Could have been out of here 15 minutes ago.
I know.
If Emory didn't go to Florida.